Hi everyone, this is Julie from Patchworks. We are going to double check and make sure that we are live with you. All right, so this is so exciting and I want to welcome you all to Patchwork Party on the Road, sponsored by Wandering Foot Quilters Guild of Oak Creek. We have a couple members who are paying attention and watching along on the feed, and they're going to be providing you with all the great information for how to join their guild if you're looking for a quilt guild on the south side of Milwaukee in the Oak Creek area. They meet on the Tuesday that we are having our presentation today, every single month, typically in the Salvation Army building in Oak Creek. And you want to watch out for their quilt show that's going to be later this fall. I'd like to thank them for still having us with this crazy situation that we are all in, but we thought, why not just take this patchwork party on the road to you at home? So in true patchwork style, it's always a party at Patchworks. Let's get this party started. Woot, woot. All right, so we're always a party, whether we're a party of one, a party of 5, or a party of 100 or 100,000. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Julie Karasek. I own Patchworks in Elm Grove, Wisconsin. My husband and I bought Patchworks in June of 2006, and we are just having a ball selling fabric, inspiring you, teaching you how to quilt, and just keeping the quilting creativity going. Today what we're going to be doing is that we are going to be sharing a trunk show of one of my very, very favorite books. So my very, very favorite book here is 12-Pack Quilts by Me and My Sister Designs. They're simple quilts that start with 12 fat quarters. So I don't know about any of you, but I love fat quarters and I just collect them all the time. And one of our signature pre-cuts that we do here at the store is putting 12 fat quarters together. I had the opportunity several years ago to give a talk down at Moda Fabrics in Dallas, Texas. And Barb and Mary from Me and My Sisters were there, and Jennifer Keltner from Martingale Publishing was there. And after I gave my talk, they said, "Julie, do you write books?" And I said, "No, I sell fabric." And then we all started talking, and Barb and Mary decided to write this book, and I was interviewed in the front of this book. So on page 8, you got to have a copy and look at me. On page 8 right here, you can see a picture of me. And so I can be in your sewing room with you every single day. We've made all these quilts or patterns from this book into quilts, and it's just so much fun. And every time I show these quilts, people love them so much. So we started making them again. And I want to share with you some of the favorite quilts that we have. And then at the end of this, we'll be doing a little bit of question and answer. How does that sound? I think that sounds fun. All right, so we have a quilt behind me, and this is one of our newest quilts that we've done. And this is which one is this? I don't have a special message on my board. This one is this great quilt. It's this great quilt. It's called Picnic. And the thing that I like about this picnic quilt is that there's this alternating design that emerges here on the center of the block. So what we're going to do is that I have Frank here with me, and Frank is going to be sharing with us the quilt design of how we are making this. So you can see here that we have a simple block that goes together. Now I have a white background here, so it might not be as easy to see, but I have a background here that's paired with what would be our fat quarter, and then we have an accent fabric. When you take this block and you rotate it 90 degrees, this is done in a half scale here, then you see this really fun accent. This block emerges from the background. So we're going to pop back over to our full quilt here, And this quilt is found on page, dun, dun, dun. I should have already looked on there for you to know. But we're just having fun tonight, right? So picnic quilt, you have the 12 fat quarters, you have some background and accent. And then we did an inner border and an outer border here. That rounds it out for a really nice piece. Now, when you're working with these particular quilts, they're really scalable. So if you had wanted to make them bigger or smaller, I should put on that, smaller or bigger, you totally can do that. When you are making these smaller or bigger, you're going to want to make sure that you're increasing them by 2 rows or 2 columns so that you get this alternating image to appear. The first version of this picnic quilt we made using chocolate and roses fabric, which is really pretty. It's a very different look. I'm just going to hold this up here and maybe we'll get, oh, Frank is going to sneak over here. Hi, Frank. So Frank, this one here, this is very different look. And we have the mint and the pink and the chocolate. We have a nice traditional background. You might be able to tell though that we don't have a border on this fabric. So sometimes we don't put borders on our shop samples for a few different reasons. So number one could be that we don't have the borders on them because I want you to be able to choose your own adventure, and I don't want you to be persuaded one way or the other if you like the quilt because of the fabric that I've chose. We have the other reason that because we hang all of our quilts in the shop, sometimes there's not enough wall space, so we want to make sure we can hang as many quilts on the wall as possible. But then there's the final reason, and this is the secret, so make sure you don't tell anybody, okay? So if I put a border on it, that means there's less fabric you can buy. So I want to make sure that there's enough fabric for you. And so sometimes our quilts don't have borders on them, but also it does give you the opportunity seriously for you to be able to audition different fabrics so that you can choose your own borders for how you'd like to finish your quilts. All right, so the next quilt that you're going to show you, so we're going to do this kind of fun, weird show since it's just me and Frank here, okay? So the next one that we're going to do is called 12 carats. So we're going to show you the board here. So showing you the board, this is, ooh, it's super scary. So it's on page 35. It has diamonds. Diamonds can be scary. So we want to cut these small diamonds here. And then we are going to piece diamonds together. So now we're going to look at what the full quilt is, all right? Okay, so let us come on over and look at the quilt. So we're looking at the quilt here, and this right here, okay? So we're looking at the quilt. And this one's really fun here. So it's in blue and purple batiks. Ooh, we love purple. Do you know that purple is the best-selling fabric color in Wisconsin? I bet you didn't know that. So if you ever say, oh my goodness, Patchworks, you have no purple fabric, it's because it's all at home with you. So we try to buy as much purple fabric as possible. We paired this beautiful batik fat stack, which we have available right now, with a beautiful 1895 modeled solid, as well as these really cool dots. What did we back it with? Ooh, let's take a peek. Ooh, look at this. So you can always be funky, and you can use a print on the back of your batik quilts if you'd like. You don't have to have it batik and batik. And then we bound it using all of the leftover scraps. And I really like being able to use the leftover scraps for binding when you have that opportunity. It gives it just a little bit of element of interest. Okay, next up, we are going to look at our newest fat stack pattern. So this one here, we're going to look at the quilt first, and then I'm going to pop back and have it be where we look at the board. And Frank, why don't you set that down so we're not, okay, great. So we have this great buzz cut here, and it's so new that it is not quilted yet. And so while we've been safer at home, we've been quilting up a storm or piecing up a storm. And this one here is done with the porcelain fat stack. And the porcelain fat stack is, or not porcelain, it is Rue 1800. I get my collections mixed up a little bit. So we had a lot of fun playing with this really shabby chic fabrics stylings of Three Sisters, and we paired it with a soft grunge. And now we're going to take a peek over at the board here. I'm going to slide the board away. And buzz cut is found on page 54, and you start with giant squares that you make giant half square triangles. And with your giant half square triangles, you're going to splice them and dice them and rearrange them. Ooh, ah, isn't that cool? And then you have your blocks that are just like this, and then you spin them 90 degrees. And when you spin them 90 degrees, we're going to look back at the quilt. You can see that you end up, by spinning them, you can get the alternating design here of more of an O and then this outside kind of donut. Do you see that? This particular quilt would be easily expandable by putting some more borders on it. Here we just have a background border to help it float into the background. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to, very high tech here at Patchworks, very high tech. We are going to look at the This and That quilt. With the This and That quilt, or this away and that away, this is 12 fat quarters, and 12 fat quarters and a background and an inner border and an outer border. Okay, once again, one of those that we just finished up. This is with Cultivate Kindness, Deb Strain's latest collection. We did run out of this guy right here, but we have more on order. So if you love, love, love those little cute little trucks, we have some trucks coming for you. So this one here, this way and that way, you can see that there is a positive and negative of this particular block. Let's go over to the board and look at the pattern. Looking at the pattern, you can see that we start with a strip set up at the top that we subcut and turn into a checkerboard 4 patch. And then we are going to use some connector corners on one side of a square to be able to make this snowballed, single-sided snowballed square. You're going to take 2 snowballed squares and 2 4 patches and put it together so it kind of looks like a candy. Really fun. You're going to be doing positives and negatives of it. That is the beautiful This Way, That Way quilt. Next, what we are going to look at is a Heart's Desire. All right, so with the Heart's Desire here, this is a really fun one. It's fun for Valentine's Day. It's fun all the time. Right now, I think it's really important, and if you need a little bit pick-me-up, maybe you should make yourself a heart quilt or even just a heart block, because hearts make us feel better, and right now we need a little bit of a pick-me-up for feeling a little bit better. So this quilt here, I have 2 different versions I'm going to show you. This one is from the Patchworks archives, and this one was made with previous Three Sisters fabric line, and this is really, really shabby. So you can see here that some of these fabrics, especially in this lighting here, might disappear into the background. And depending on the quilt that you're making, that might be appealing to your design, or you might want to see a little bit higher contrast. So when you're picking your fat quarters, it's always important to be thinking about not only if the fabrics go together, but also about the value of those fat quarters that you're choosing. So in this case, this lighter value fat quarter might be a little too light because it's really blendy, and it might appear at home that this is just a square, okay? So when I pick my fat stacks, oftentimes what I like to do is I like to make sure that I'm choosing them in a similar value and then have a higher contrast background. Does that make sense? On this one, I also love an element of this. So you might be able to see here that there's 4 different fabrics for the borders. This is a couple different things. So number one, it makes it incredibly interesting that there are 4 different fabrics. If you're making this quilt from your stash, this is really useful because a quilt designer gave you permission, right? They gave you permission to use the fabric that you have for your borders. And it's okay if you have 4 different fabrics. So are we not able to see the 4 different fabrics? Okay, so on the bottom here, we have one fabric. We have one on the side. See, this is just impromptu fun. And then we have another one here, and we have one up on top, okay? You'll be able to see it a little bit better with my second version that I have to show you. This one is bolder and brighter with me and my sister designs fabrics. And so this is fun and funky. This comes from the archives as well. You can see here we used some striped fabrics, some of them matching up really, really perfectly, and others of them, Frank, I'm going to have you point to the one right there, that have a little bit of a staggered set in your stripe, which is actually a very interesting look. You could, and when we were looking at this, we were thinking, you know, you could even mix and match your colors to maybe have a broken heart or a mismatched heart along the way. But here we might be able to see, we're going to hold it down just a little bit so that we can see here we have the circles here, we have the fishies there, stripes on the bottom, and then these dots right over here. So when you're making your quilts, and especially now when you might not be able to come and visit us right here in person, even though you're able to call us and we're able to fill your orders, but you might want to be finishing some of those quilts and say, you know, I have a half yard of this and a half yard of that, but not enough to border a whole quilt. Well, why not consider bordering a quilt with different fabrics on each side? And, you know, it was published that way in a book. And so you are given permission to do that. All right, so we have a few more quilts that we're going to show you. Oh, but we want to show you how to make this block first, right? Yes. Okay, somebody's got to keep me on track. All right, so we're going to hop back over to the boards. And here we have the Heart's Desire, and this is found on page 20 of the book, 12 fat quarters, backgrounds, and borders. And you are going to make this using connector corners. So up on the top, we actually used some very, very dark thread there so that you could see it at home. And so you make a left and a right. So it's very important for each heart to have a left and a right. If you make all lefts, well, you'll have all half hearts. And if you make all rights, you'll have all half hearts the other way. So you want to make sure that you make half of them left and half of them right, so that they can come together. Also, when you're piecing them together, you'll want to make sure that at the bottom you have this 1/4 inch seam allowance so that you have a point at the bottom of your heart. You'll notice that at the top there's a little flat area, so it's a little bit more forgiving when you're piecing it together. So what other things do I have up my sleeve? Well, I have Caught in the Middle, and this one is one of my most favorite designs. And why is it one of my most favorite designs? It's because it looks more complicated than what it is. So this is one where we have a partial seam. You might say, Julie, what is a partial seam? Well, a partial seam here is where we sew a little bit on and then we leave it for the next time. Okay, so we're going to start by making a strip set here, and we're going to start from the right side and piece it on part way, and then we stop, okay? And then what we do is we open it up, okay? After we open it up, we're then going to attach this side and this side. And you can see here with this final side, okay, that we just slide it on just like this, okay? Slide it on, sew it, and then we can take this final edge and just finish it up, okay? It gets even better than that because we continue this for another round. So we start here and then we go this way, and this way. It is really important to go around the block rather than going the opposite direction. The very first time I did this partial seamed quilt, I went this way, so I was making a partial seam on all 8 seams in the block, and you know what? That took a lot more time to make. So I highly recommend that you go this way, and so that would be counterclockwise, and it's a lot of fun. So let's show you. I have 3 different versions of this quilt to show you because I just love it so much. So the first one that I have to show you is a Kansas Trouble one, and I'm so excited because, well, we have some new Kansas Troubles fabric coming soon. This one here, so we're holding it sideways, and that's all right. So it is a 4x5 set, so it is a rectangular quilt, and we used 12 fat quarters, but we also used scrappy backgrounds. Ooh, so now we're just kicking it up a notch. You can not only have a scrappy front, but you could have a scrappy background. And then we had an inner border and an outer border on this one, okay? So take a snapshot of this in your head, and now I'm going to show you another version of this quilt. So another version of this quilt is right here. We have 2 more of them. This one, or this one, maybe just, no, that's a different one. You know, this one and that one. So this one here I made, and it has no border, okay? So I don't know if I was cheating, if I ran out of time, or you know what I think it is. So this is a Robin Pickens. This is a previous line of Robin Pickens. And you know those gorgeous florals that go on the outside? Oh, they're so yummy. We didn't want to use them all up. So we wanted to let you have the opportunity to be able to choose which one that you wanted. So that is how it would look. A little bit smaller, a little bit like a throw without a border there. I think I do have one more of this one, and it's a really fun one. So this really fun one, oh yeah. I know this is Frank's favorite quilt in the whole world, okay, because I like Halloween, if you didn't know that. So this isn't fair to show you. This is from the archives, so like this side here. So don't be too excited, okay? Don't be too excited when I show it to you because, you know, this paddle is fabulous. Okay, so one of the things that I like to do is sometimes when I have a quilt block, I substitute a panel square, okay, to alternate in my favorite quilt pattern. So if I don't have a panel quilt that's my favorite and a panel speaks to me, what I do is that I look at the panel quilt or a panel, and then I look at my favorite quilt pattern and I figure out what grid I need to cut my panel square. Okay, so that's like a PhD class for another day. But here we had this great, eerily elegant fabric line by Deb Strain, and we bordered out with, because we needed to add just a little bit to these. And you know, sometimes panel squares aren't perfect, right? And so, and we often like think, oh no, if I frame it out, everybody's going to notice, it's terrible, it's ruined. No, no, no. Can you even see that I paneled it out or framed it out here? You can't see it. So we did this, and then we alternated with some fun caught in the middle blocks. And you can see we made half with a black background and half with an ivory accent here. And then, because we were making less blocks, we took all of our extra fabric and we made a scrappy border with all the rest of our fat quarters. Isn't that just fun and fabulous? I think it is. Okay, and then, so we had fun with the back one on this too. So sometimes you see these great panels, bigger panels in the store, and you're like, oh, I love that, but I would never base a whole quilt around it. Well, you don't have to. Just put it on your back, okay? So, okay, you ready for this one? This is also from the archive, so I don't want to make you guys like jealous because you can't have it, but I have to share it with you because it's fun. Oh, look at this. These are so fun. Okay, so this is really fun here, and this is just how you can have fun playing with a panel. When you're working with an element of interest like this, be it a panel or let's just say a big bold print, don't necessarily be obsessed with it being centered on your quilt back. Place it so that it's offset, and you can just have a lot of fun with that. Okay, so now what else do we have to show you? I think we are going to look at, dun dun dun, I'm going off screen here. We are looking at, oh, here we go. Just because we're in the whole Halloween mode. This one is called Skip. Dun 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 dun. Okay, so this was fun. This was also from the archive, great fat quarters, and we took a background. And then this one is using your leftovers as your border, okay? Lots of fun. If you wanted to make it bigger yet, you could, of course, take one focus print and have it be on the outside. This is an elongated 9 patch that we're going to look at in the board in just a moment, but really fun. And then we make it in columns. So when you're making it in columns, you don't have to worry about your seams intersecting that much. So it's really, really forgiving. We're going to flip it over and we're going to look at the back one of this too. So this is another idea for when you have that really cool piece of fabric and you only bought 2.5, 3 yards of it, but you needed 6 yards for your back and you're just so sad. Don't be sad. Use it as your focus of your back, and you can just frame it on either side with some textured solid or some solids, okay? And so this way you can just have really fun, and if you had wanted, it could also be a reversible quilt. So we are going to hop over to the board and look at Skip, and then after we look at how to put it together, we are going to look at another color variation of that. So come on over with me. And we are going to look at, oops, not this one. We're going to look at that one. So this one is Skip. So once again, on the white background, it might not be as easy to follow along, but you have an elongated 9 patch. And for some of them, you're going to splice it. And then when you splice it, it becomes the top and bottom of the alternating row. Okay, so you keep focusing on that, and I'm going to pull out the alternating color, and then we can also see how that half block takes shape, okay? Okay, so here we go. This one is really fun. It was just a mashup fat stack of all sorts of different beautiful fat quarters, and here you can see that I have a half block here, and then there's a half block at the bottom of the next column. Half block here, half block of the other, okay? Does that make sense? So just really, really fun and really, really easy and really, really forgiving. Really easy to make bigger, smaller, however you desire. Okay. What else do we got? We have a board for a waist knot, and so we're going to flip back over to the board so that we can see that. And in the waist knot, this is a foundation piecing block. So a lot of, or foundation piecing, string piecing, this particular pattern is relatively easy. Well, all of the patterns in the book are easy, but this one where you start with a piece of muslin on the back, and then you draw a line down the center and you just keep going, stitching fabrics on the diagonal. So sometimes we just need to tell someone to tell us, you know what, you need to cut X number of strips this wide, X number of strips this wide, this X number of strips this wide, and put them together as such until you have nothing left. You can also just feel free to use this as inspiration and use your scraps. After you're done making this block, you'll see that you're going to have all sorts of irregular edges. You're going to be squaring up your block And in this case, because we were using it as a show board for a long time, you can see how many places this board has been. The edges are a little tattered. That we stay stitched this edge so that everything stayed nice. Now, with this particular method, you are leaving this fabric on the back side of the block here. So you want to make sure that you use a nice thin layer. In other techniques, you'd be using a paper that you would remove. But in this case, we left it intact. And then it did give us for a little bit of some bulk in our seams as we're putting it together, which is why it's really important that you use the lightest of lightweight fabric for your foundation piece. So that one is on page 28. I have a sample of the quilt to show you. And that one here is done in some really fun bright batiks. This came from the archives. And you can see here how we positioned these blocks, rotated them 90 degrees so that you get the alternating X and O. Really cool. You could play around with changing the orientation of these blocks and get some fun other designs. Using leftovers of those fat quarters, have a really beautiful inner border here. Really fun. Nice square quilt, could make it bigger, smaller, lots of fun. Okay, so we looked at a lot of really fun quilts from the book here, and I am going to take a moment and we're going to talk about some fabric. How does that sound? All right. Keep holding those questions. I'm not sure if anybody's chiming in along the way. I'm not able to be all places at one time. So we're going to look at some fabric, and then we are going to come back and look at some other fun stuff. Okay, so here we are going to, oh, hello. We're here. We have, over here, okay. Gotta love technology. This is so fun. We're gonna be so great at this. I'm telling you, we're gonna be so great at this in just a couple weeks. I'm certain of it. Okay, so we have some fun fat stacks that we're gonna be putting together to show you. And so once again, everything came from 12-pack quilts. Ooh. And the fat stacks that we put together that I think a lot of you recognize if you're local, and if you're not local, we have this fun little tag on it, and it's called Fat Stack. And so what we're going to do, because we're learning in all of this, so I'm going to call these specific things, okay? So this one is the Cultivate Kindness. And what we're going to do is that I am going to show you the fabric. And when I'm showing you the fabric, I'm also going to give you a letter for what the fabric is, okay? Does that make sense? And so then if we need to reference it in the future, then you can say, oh yeah, Fat Stack A. Does that sound good? All right, so let's see if I can remember what number we're on, or letter. So this is a great Cultivate Kindness, and we're gonna flip over here, Frank, to this one here. All right, so we are going to talk about our fun fabrics that we have here. So the Cultivate Kindness is a new fat stack that we have available, and I mentioned earlier that we do have some of the truck fabric coming in stock. You know, everything with the shipping is all crazy, and we are going to be getting a little bit of truck fabric in. And so you can see these 12 beautiful fabrics. So, and we're not going to talk in detail about all of our fabric pulls that we do, but I think it's really interesting for you to see sometimes how we do something, okay? So, I'm just going to show them to you like this. Do you see this here? How we have, okay, so we have yellow, green, blue, red into multicolor here, okay? So this is when I pull things, I look to see that we have variation of color. This is definitely all one fabric line, but I make sure that we have a variation, balance of color and design. So we have a smattering of this large gingham print. We have the leaves, we have floral, we have some words. Does that make sense? Okay. Our next one that we're going to look at, and so this was Cultivate Kindness A. Next up, we have Purple Blue Batik B. And we have some gorgeous purple fabrics. Oh, look at these purple fabrics. Purple into blue, aren't they yummy? So gorgeous. It's a whole variety of different prints here. Look at that array. And we have lights. Some darks here. Okay, do you see this? How we have some lighter over here, medium and dark, but we don't have all dark, no lights, so we can pair it with a background. So that was Blue Purple Batik B. Now we have our Rue 1800. Ah, oh, beautiful. Pinks and aqua and taupey, beautiful color here. Okay, once again, very purposeful, very balanced. And we have large scale, medium scale, small scale, tonal, and dot. Ooh! So this one is very, very pretty. We had used that in our buzz cut quilt. And this is Rue 1800 C. Okay. Next up, we have Stiletto. So Stiletto is D, and Stiletto is basic gray. And we have some beautiful grays. So basic gray does a lot of these neutrals, and this is a next in the series of their Little Black Dress series, and I love, 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 love it. So we did kind of break the rules and go a little light here to just give a little pop, but lots of nice textures here, and just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. This would be beautiful, and it pairs wonderfully with grunge, which is the basic gray background. So this is Stiletto Fat Stack D. Now I have the Mackinac Island fat stack that we used in our picnic quilt. And so this is Mackinac Island E. E is in Edward. And look at these. So we have some gorgeous reds. Minnikin Simpson always does a fabulous job. And did you know that most of the lines have geographic names for their fabric lines? Very interesting. So you learn so much. Not only are you getting to see pretty fabric, you get to learn so much. And so we have, sometimes it's not complete rules here, but you can see we have our pinks into reds and our light blue into a dark blue here with multicolor. And we have our large floral, our medium floral, our small print. We have lines and dots. So a nice way to be able to pair this together into this great patriotic Americana line with our gorgeous picnic quilt that we have here. So lots and lots of pretty fabrics. Our Mackinac Island yardage that we have in the store is also on our website. So if you had wanted to pair it with a fun inner and outer border, you'd be able to do that as well. We have just a couple more fat stacks that we're going to show you, and then we're going to show you a couple fun quilt kits, and then we're going to open everything open to questions. So I'm going to be able to pull up the Facebook Live post to be able to answer some questions for you. How does that sound? Okay, so next up we have a fun clover meadow. So remember I told you that Wisconsin's favorite fabric color was purple? Well, we have a gorgeous fabric line here, and so this is F. So we have Clover Meadow Fat Stack F. F as in Frank. Haha. Or fabric. I like Frank better. What do you think? Okay, I can't start laughing. So we have some violet fabric here with some sagey greens. The sagey greens are just gorgeous. And then we have just a little bit of this brown with the sage and violet accent. Ooh, ah, oh. And this is a gorgeous fabric array here that is Clover Meadow, and it has a variety of fun different scales. We do have yardage of this on our website as well. What we're going to do now is that we're going to show you a couple of additional quilts. So we have a couple really awesome surprises for you. And with that, we have this really awesome Americana quilt kit that we have in the store. It's called Mackinac Island, and it is a really wonderful quilt kit that has the blues and the reds. It's really patriotic, and it's easy to piece and classic and traditional in styling. One of our quilty ladies, Karen, made this quilt, and I'm going to show it to you. It is so awesome. And Angie, you all know Angie, she quilted this, and it is just amazing. So that's the top. Nope, it's the bottom. So we have just a few of these quilt kits remaining. But isn't this gorgeous? Sometimes I think that the digital pictures just don't do a quilt justice. And this really fun star border, if you remember a Minnick & Simpson line from a few years ago, it might have been Bar Harbor, I'm not sure which one, but this great large star border had been available as a banner and not in the cotton print. And so this is just really nice that we are able to see it in a cotton print. So you're making your stars that are staggered, and then you have this really cool stripe that falls behind it, and then the big border that goes all the way on the back. So it's a beautiful, beautiful quilt. Thank you, Karen, for letting us share it with all of you. And it is just gorgeous. The other thing I want to show you is Stitch Happens. And Stitch Happens is a fun quilt that we are going to be kicking off this Saturday. We have another program this Saturday at 10:30. It's our Moda University program, and we're going to be starting our progressive patchwork program of the year in addition to our regular monthly feature. And so the pattern is this really awesome wall hanging. So last year we had a really big project that was a little overwhelming, And so some people weren't sure if they wanted to start with another big project. And I said, don't worry, we're going to have a giant project. It's this 37 by 40 inch sampler. Oh, big, big, big. And so it's so fun and easy. And we'll have this pattern available for purchase separately as well if you wanted to play along. It is fat eighth friendly. You can do it in rainbow colors as displayed, or this one was made by Angie. And look at this. She used me and my sister fabrics. And how fun is this? So just imagine your favorite quilt designer, okay, your favorite fabric designer, and you can make a fun sewing machine with scraps, or you can buy fabric of their fabric designs, okay, to have your very own theme for your sewing machine that is your Stitch Happens quilt. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this. It's fairly easy peasy, and we're going to break it down over the course of the next 8 months. So that will be fun. But of course, if you want to make it in a weekend, you are more than welcome to do that. All right, so that was lots of fun of stuff here that we showed. What we're going to do now is that we are going to see if anybody has anything they want to ask me about what we saw. And then I probably have 1 or 2 more things that I'm going to tell you. Does that sound good? Okay. So I am going to walk back over there, and our very highly technical setup is going to be following me along the way. So we are coming back over around, and I am going to pull up, my questions here. Okay, so let's see if I can hop to does anybody have any questions here? Let's see if I can see them. I might not be able to. So that was a fun and exciting thing. Let's see if we can figure it out. So I apologize that we are having a titch of technical difficulties here. Are we having fun? Probably. Everybody's always having fun, right? Woot, 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 woot. Okay, so one of the things that I would like to share with you is that for what we're doing over the next course of time, with us being able to shop and how we can proceed, since we are all going to be safer at home for a little bit more time. And it is really important for you to know that Frank and I are here. We are going to be able to add a couple of our staff members after Friday. And we have been adding a whole bunch of really exciting stuff to our website so that you can more easily shop. Clearly, it is not everything that we have in the store. And so please be patient with us as we pivot to make our shopping available to you. And so we've been doing personal shopping with taking photos, helping things. We can also pretend like it's 1985, and you can send us swatches of fabric. Sending us swatches of fabric is very helpful for being able to help color match. If you want to send it by mail, and it only takes a day for local mail to make that happen. So that is really that's really helpful to do that. I'm just going to quick see if I can pop up my comments yet. I can't see my comments. How crazy is that? Okay, so is a lot of people asking questions? Okay, so if you have any questions, you can always make sure that you ask them, and I'll answer them after. Now, for those of you who are Wandering Foot Quilters Guild members, we have a special opportunity for you. So we have a delivery option for you. Isn't that exciting? So We have, I know we posted it online, something called the Wandering Foot Quilters Guild delivery service. So if you are a subscribed member, and I believe all the subscribed members are within the delivery distance, there's a $4.99 delivery fee, and it would get delivered to your doorstep. Lots of fun things that we can do there. If some of you watching may not be from the local area or may not be subscribed Wandering Foot members and accidentally click on that option, we would just switch you to regular shipping or pickup options. And if there are any mischarges, we of course will correct all the things along the way. We have had just so much fun with you tonight, and I just am really, really thankful for the opportunity of being able to talk to you. I hope that you continue to be sewing and be creative through our time at home, and I can't wait to see you soon. Thanks so much.